So I noticed that a bunch of you here today have been at our previous webinars, or some of them, and so you've probably seen this graphic. Some of you might not have. We use this all the time in O'Donnell Learn to remind ourselves of the environment of learning today and how different learners are learning in different places with different challenges. And instructors are having to deal with the challenges of both remote students and in-class students. And so we always pause and start this in front of everything we do. And by starting with our learners, we're also reinforcing our complete commitment to humanized, inclusive, and engaged learning. So that's why I'm really happy that today's topic is going to be about 5 ways to humanize the learning experience. So what we want to do is start with some quotes that we've heard from our student learners. And you should know that O'Donnell does a lot of market research with learners, with faculty, with administrators, and we're always trying to hear the voice, all of the voices that we touch so that we can be better at what we do. In this slide are a few quotes. I'm going to give you a moment to read them. So the top 2 quotes were taken from a webinar that we conducted with several Every Learner Everywhere and OLC student ambassadors that participated in our Purposeful Learning Festival this fall. These are responses to the question about what experiences they had that helped them to be successful during the stressful time of the pandemic. And not surprisingly, all of their answers were centered around faculty making the course more humanized. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'd like to start by doing a Padlet exercise. And if you can open up the Padlet and you can see, I would like you to answer these 3 questions. What are you hearing or sensing from students that calls for further humanizing? What efforts have you been able to make? And what challenges have you faced? So let's open the Padlet now and give you guys a few minutes to participate. You click on the plus button to add a comment. And when you do that, it'll show you a little box and you can just write into that and then it'll publish it when you click publish. It's a new interface for Padlet.
I'm hearing crickets. That's funny.
I love this one. I asked my teacher a question and they tell me to read the syllabus when the time it took to type that would have been the same as just answering the question. Yeah, that are examples of not humanized. Yeah, the students told us that flexibility in completing assignments was really, really, really helpful. When we hear that repeatedly from students and understanding that they're under a lot of pressure, and also understanding that many of them, especially when they're learning remotely, are learning and living in the same space. They've got parents, children, and whoever running through the room as they're trying to participate in a class, and particularly live classes that can be very stressful. I'm having more students with personal challenges, having to skip class meetings, and even more students dropping my course or AWOL. I mean, this is really a stressful time, huh? More confused by so much variability of course classes. What we're hearing from schools is that many schools are just really, they aren't going to close as the Omicron instances increase, but what it's creating is these classes where some people are remote, some people aren't there, people are in and out, some are like going to go remote for a few weeks and then come back, and it's just disruption, disruption, disruption. For extension coupons, that's a great idea. For extension coupons is a really great idea. Doing check-ins with students, come back to that later and talk about it in chat when we show you some of the ways that we do that. I'm giving get out of jail free cards. I love those, right? Live weekly check-in with students. Yeah, this whole faculty reluctance, saying that well, they don't belong here, and then lacking empathy. You know, this is a remnant of the way things used to be, which was that courses were more geared towards weeding students out than nurturing them to succeed. And I think it's still really hard to get some of those mindsets shifted. COVID has showed us that we have to shift the mindset. Parents not feeling as if students are getting the full college education experience. I would say students as well. My nephew, who's a junior, calls it COVID college. And they feel like they're just not getting it. Oh, faculty, more workload as I offer more flexibility. That's so true. And the department is supportive to a certain extent, and not everyone agrees with my course design choices. I've been criticized being too soft and not rigorous enough. You know, humanizing doesn't mean lacking rigor, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I make great efforts to stimulate engagement. More students than before appear to be checked out. They do the assignments to get a passing grade, but without watching recorded lectures, doing the readings. I'm doing lots of monitoring and outreach to loop them back in. That's great. Please speak up in chat. This is a really great, we'll share this out at the end. Thank you so much for all of your comments. I can't believe how much, I mean, this is obviously a big issue here, right? Oh, and funding and faculty burnout. I mean, is faculty burnout universal? We're seeing it universally. And God bless faculty for dealing with all this disruption, changing the way you teach. It's very difficult. So let's move on, and we'll come back to a lot of these issues. I think you'll see a lot of them are addressed in this PowerPoint. So when we think about humanizing the learning experience, and again, I want to come back to that comment about rigor. Humanizing doesn't need to mean lack of rigor, okay? Or a lack of a high standard of accountability as to what is successful and what is good work, right? You know, effective learning. So when we think about it, we focus on the heart of the learner, of every learner. And COVID has really shown us that we need to ground ourselves in other people and understand the stress and anxiety faced by both faculty and learners. And I know that a lot of the folks in this room are academic leaders who really have to deal with the stress of faculty as well. This is especially important today, right now, January 2022, as we face a COVID surge like never before, one that is creating tons of disruption on campus. Do we go remote for the next few weeks or month? Do we stay on campus, knowing that many learners, educators, and academic support team members will be out sick this week? This creates a seesaw of face-to-face, virtual, blended. What are we doing? And it mostly creates a lot of anxiety. So it's more important than ever that we humanize the learning experience. And I'm hoping that we can show you these 5 simple tips for doing that. So I'm going to go through each of them, and for each, I'm going to, those of you who've been to our webinars, you'll see our format is pretty consistent. We try to give you a few techniques or tools that you can use, but I know that you have been working through this yourselves, and you've got some ideas or tools. So so please use chat to talk to them. Yeah, I see there's a chat right now going on about fluffy but firm and too much fluff. I mean, that is crazy. You're doing the best you can, you know? And on top of that, humanizing is critical. So, and, you know, bring in the perspective of high flex, bring that in as you're going. I forget who said that, Joyce, please bring that in. And Jin Lee, let's hear, I want to keep the comments coming, guys. Okay, our first principle or practice or text step is model practices for empathy and inclusivity. Wow, at O'Donnell Learn, any of you guys who have been to our previous webinars or conference events, we always put ourselves in the shoes of the learner. And forgive me if you've seen this before, but this is a tried and true way to do it. And it's called an empathy map. And it gives you a pause. Basically, this tool gives us a pause. to think about what students do, see, say, think, and hear when they're in your class. And what you would aspirationally want them to be doing, seeing, saying, thinking, and hearing. Because sometimes what's actually happening is not what you'd really like to happen, nor would they. And to really think about their needs. 10 minutes of reflection using this tool can ground you as you think about the rest of the class. And if it's, we use it all the time with faculty and they always appreciate it. So next, I'm going to go to a little discussion on inclusion, and I'm channeling Brett up in Washington, who is one of his greatest areas of expertise and one of his greatest passions is universal design for learning. And here's an image that's been used many years. And if you might have seen this at our previous webinars, but also you might have seen this in a baseball. Sandy, we're going to give you the slide deck, so you'll be able to see the slide again. Anyway, many of you might have seen this exact image here in a baseball context, but he's found this really great Arab soccer match. So on the left, you'll see what happens when we treat everyone the same, and some people can't even see the match. On the second image, we're making an effort toward equity, but we're having to do something different for each person. Think about the accommodations and how reactive and costly and sometimes disrespectful they can be. On the right shows what happens when we simply remove the barriers through better design. When you think about removing barriers, a great example are curb cuts, right? Not everyone needs them, but everyone benefits. I think about video closed captioning. We had my dad with us this holiday, and he's has a lot of infirmity. And so we always use closed captioning when he visits. And we all end up getting more out of the movie by having it closed captioned as well as just watching it. Another example are automatic motion sensor doors, rather than having people have to use another entrance or press a button if they have an issue going through the door. So that is how we've traditionally thought about equality versus equity versus inclusion. Well, our team put our heads together last year and we created our version of this for virtual or online learning. And this is the today. Now, on the first image on the left, you have an instructor who has simply learned how to use Zoom to create recorded lectures. Yes, this is made available to all students, and oftentimes it's a 50-minute recorded lecture with no pause. And it's absolutely inaccessible to some students. In the second frame, we now see the instructor has learned some basics in delivering synchronous online lessons. However, it's still limited in terms of being about their content delivery. The slides are text heavy. Students are experiencing cognitive overload and becoming disengaged as the instructor is not using tools or techniques to facilitate a classroom dialogue. And they're not recording the session. So you go over to the right and the systemic barriers are removed. This is a more effective at balancing text to visual. Students have links to slides and related resources. Students are engaged via chat, and there would be periodic breakout rooms and active learning, other active learning activities. You'll have this as a chunked lesson where you might lecture for 5-10 minutes or 12 minutes and then have an active learning opportunity. And then in addition, there are live captioning. So that's one thing as you think about your classes and what you're offering your students in Humanizing, this is one thing to think about. There's one other thing that we show a lot in our webinars that we don't have here, but one thing you can do is survey your students at the beginning to find out what their challenges or barriers are. We have a tool called the Learner Connectedness Survey, and we'll pop that into the follow-up email so you can have access to it. And it's a great way to understand each student. Principle number 2, put out the welcome mat. Welcome every student into the course. You would be surprised if you look at so many course homepages and syllabi, how punitive they sound as opposed to welcoming. So here's an example of an easy way to do it, and that's to create a visually engaging course syllabus. And you can see here, this is a marketing course. And on the left, I don't know if you can read this really well, but on the left, 140 hours will be required, bold, highlighted. I mean, it's very punitive sounding. The same information is presented on the right. And this actually looks like a marketing course, right? It's like, oh, wow, this is like marketing speak. Hashtag MKT490, right? So this kind of rethinking your syllabus also communicates a student-centered teachings philosophy. Now, I want to hear, Verena, you just said, unfortunately, very rigorously enforced syllabus templates, and a lot of schools have those. So we always kind of suggest that this be kind of a secondary or alternative viewpoint of the syllabus. You can also think about redesigning your course homepage to be more engaging and create this philosophy. But if you're doing, for example, a syllabus like the one on the right, you do need to have a traditional black and white, word-based or whatever you use, Google Sheets, whatever, Google whatever's, and they give, because that's important for accessibility. But as you develop your syllabus, think about including supportive language that promotes confidence while engaging in rigor, that sets clear expectations, avoids academic jargon and too much academic language at the beginning, conveys high expectations while incorporating information about your support, how they can get in touch with you, how you can support them, or how the school supports them, what they can do to make sure they're confident and successful in the class. And also describes the high impact pedagogical practices you're going to be using. And but also sets really high, you can set high standards while still being human. Any other comments? Oh, Regina, we have a specific format required, but see the value of including a second more visually. That's what a lot of schools do. And we'll just show you, this next page is really is there for the, Molly, if you can flip it, or Kelly, if you can flip it. The next page, this is just there for us to return to you, but you can see pre and post, and you can see visual syllabi in different content areas to give you ideas. But, oh, I love that, a syllabus tour video. That's a very great idea. So please, I'm so glad there's so much going on in chat. Keep it up, keep going. And these ideas, all the ideas that we capture in chat, we'll be throwing them in as a follow-up to you, okay? So let's move on. The other way to put out the welcome mat, and some of you have already mentioned video. So a great way, one of the best things an instructor can do to increase your presence and humanize the course for your students is to have a video or videos. And they don't have to be fancy. And you can place an opening video on your course homepage or create a little intro or bumper video each week or each module. And this professor, anthropologist from Kansas State, Michael Wesch, is the master at it. He keeps it real, simple, and authentic. And I wanted to actually show a snippet of what he's got on his, this is a video on how to create super simple videos. Molly, maybe you can put your volume on. I'll turn mine off for a minute.
I love teaching out here. God, your forehead is huge. Nobody cares about what you're going to say. You're so scared you can't remember. Hi. Hi, I'm Mike Wesch, and I'm going to show you how to make a video for your class. I read it. Can anybody see how hard other people get over fear? Look how fear. Go read your stupid script. You should just quit. Hey, Woody, come here. Come get in the YouTube video with me. What do you think about being on?
So in this video, Michael gives 5 reasons to make super simple videos, simple tech tips, the hard part, how to do it, and how to overcome your fear, and 5 tips to get on camera. And he shows what students think about it. So if you're interested in encouraging your faculty to start doing this or doing it yourself, this is a great way to start. So thank you, Michael. We love you. So, okay. Any other, Jordan, did any other good comments come up about welcoming, putting out the welcome mat? I love this comment here, Joyce, syllabus game hunt with a Q&A for students. That's a great idea. Anything else? No, okay. Let's move on. Ensure that every voice is heard. This one goes to my heart. Each year I have a declaration that I use as my daily declaration for the year. And this year my declaration is hear every voice. And I think it speaks to listening for me, which I want to do more of and better of. So I think it's really important in the class, and it helps to humanize it for students. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick little tips, but I mean, we used Padlet before. Look at how active every voice was in Padlet and chat, and just encouraging people and pausing and asking a question and asking people to answer it allows you to hear every voice. But we also use a tool called Flipgrid. And this is a Flipgrid example here from one of our professional development boot camps. It helps to put faculty in the shoes of the learner. Here we ask them to talk about what they're doing to evolve their course based on in this boot camp after a few sessions. It's good to do these after a little warm up. Don't do them before the class starts because you won't get any participation. But everybody was able to comment on each other's, and you'd be surprised. There's a lot of humor comes out of it as well. And it's a great way to share, to get to know each other, and to create a sense of community. We also use a tool, really encourage the use of a tool that Brett calls the early term feedback survey. You can call it whatever you want. But basically, it gives the students an opportunity to provide feedback to the instructor. And we use it typically a few weeks into the course to get students' thoughts on what's working and to help the instructor tailor the instruction to the student needs and to what they're hearing. So if there are things that have been unclear, then they learn that and they can adjust accordingly. And I know that all the faculty that we work with really want to really connect with students, and this is a great way to do it. Some of them like to use this like every 3 or 4 weeks through the course, just to continually get feedback and have students know that their feedback is always wanted. So the next one is enable students with the power to reach their highest goals. So one of the greatest things that you can do is to give students agency in actually what you're teaching and how they're learning and what they're learning. And this is scary for a lot of professors, but we hear over and over again that when professors do this, when instructors do this, it really improves their experience, and they feel it improves the experience for everyone. And they also think it frees up time because the students are taking more control of their learning, and the faculty can focus more on engaging with the students. So there's a couple of easy ways to do this, and one is authentic learning. And I think we have to remember in today's world, when so many students, so many courses of learning, so many learning experiences are geared towards preparing students to enter or re-enter the workforce or evolve their workforce experience, but giving them the opportunities for authentic learning activities, putting them in the shoes of the real world and asking them to complete assignments, to work in groups, to make decisions that are the types of decisions they'll make in the real world is really important. And it's used obviously really extensively in technical and professional kinds of courses like nursing, et cetera. But there's ways to bring authentic learning into almost everything you do. So that's one of the ways we think about. The next one is something, so we partner a lot with Jerry Hanley, who's the executive director of Merlot. Some of you may know him. He's amazing, wonderful person. And one thing he's reminded us is that, you can ask students to put together their own content and inclusive designs and resources for the course. And you can use Merlot to do it by inviting students to join Merlot. It's a free and open resource. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Merlot. It's a database of open educational resources, and students can create their own bookshelves, collections, and course e-portfolios, and they can add their own materials to the Merlot collection, and it's really great. One of the other things that some of our faculty do is they actually have students present the class period at times and be responsible for delivering the content, and then they can be more facilitator, commenter, and clarifier. So there's lots of ways to include students in the actual learning experience. Our last, I think it's our last one, is offer timely feedback that's personalized early and often. So feedback is an important step in humanizing learner experience, as it provides personalized input and shifts the experience from being about grades to the individualized learning process. Now, that doesn't mean you aren't rigorous. It just shifts the experience. So when providing frequent and timely feedback, you're also better able to acknowledge that there are different ways of knowing. It also helps foster a sense of competency and belonging to your students. So you can also let your students know you feel their presence by sending a little nudge. Haven't seen you for 2 weeks. Is everything okay? And I know some of you in the comments have said that they are doing that already. James, you're absolutely right on a good way to meet the regular and substantive feedback requirements. And by the way, we did a webinar on that in December, and if anyone's interested, there's a whole webinar on feedback, and you can attend on the new Department of Ed requirements, and you can look at it in the YouTube if you're interested. Brett has very knowledgeable about it, and he's put together a bunch of tools to help you with that. Okay. This is a study that was conducted on the perceptions of students and faculty regarding feedback. It was conducted by Emma Mulliner and Matthew Tucker. It was really interesting. You know, students often found feedback to be vague, non-personalized, and therefore not useful to inform their learning. Whereas instructors thought that they were providing practical and understandable, constructive, and fair feedback. So again, learner empathy is really important. Putting yourselves in the point of view of the learner is critical. And really obvious, and I know most of you here are really have lots of expertise in designing learning, so I don't want to overstate it, but you know, mixing low stakes with high stakes assessment is really important to increasing student success and a great way to provide feedback. So, you know, focus less on high stakes summative exams, and particularly those with multiple choice or objective type questions, which are easily cheatable in the online environment when you're teaching online. And put more of the course requirements, whether online or face-to-face, into formative assessments with the emphasis on using assessment to promote learning, to giving students feedback, and to enabling students to see where their learning gaps exist before the summative exam. So many times students tell me the first accessible moment, they don't say it that way, but the first time I was ever able to see how I was doing in the class was in the midterm. And it's like, and then I failed it. So I dropped out. Well, we don't want that to happen. That's not good instruction, right? That's not good learning practice. So formative assessments can range widely from mini quizzes to active learning to exam prep activities. They can include students assessing themselves or their peers through writing, quizzes, dialogue, and more. They enable students to identify misconceptions, struggles, and learning gaps along the way, and to assess how to close those gaps. And we did a recent webinar on formative assessment if you want to explore further. Again, it's on our YouTube channel. So, okay, I'm going to pause for a minute. Does anyone have any comments or questions before we break out into breakout groups?
Carrie, there's some good comments in the chat session here. Regina's saying that she spends a lot of time following with low performing and non-performing students, but sometimes lost in the shuffle are the high performing students, right? You know, we kind of forget them, you know, they're doing fantastic and they're highly engaged, and we kind of forget them sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mm.
That's excellent. Any other comments? I love Kahoot. Verena uses Kahoot questions in addition to formative quizzes for more practice opportunity. We love Kahoot. Okay, so we're going to do a breakout discussion, okay, for 10 minutes. And what we're going to do is ask you, is 10 minutes too long? 10 minutes, okay, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we've given a lot of individual tips for you as an individual instructor, but we know that a lot of folks here are leaders of instructors or designers who work with instructors. So I want to talk about how you can promote a more humanized experience this spring across your campus. You know, what are one or two humanizing techniques or activities can you promote that would resonate with your faculty and students? How can you ensure that students' voices are heard in the class, outside of the class, and in a seesaw environment of virtual and in class? And how can you support faculty to scale the use of these techniques? So I'm going to have you chat with each other for 10 minutes. We're not going to have enough time, I'm sorry, to report back, but let's just come on in. And what we'll do is I'm asking you to have in each breakout room, have one person take notes and put those, we've got a Google Doc and it's broken out. So each breakout room has a page. And if you actually jot down your notes, then we'll pull all those notes together and share them back out to you later. Okay, so enjoy meeting each other and working with each other for a few minutes, and we'll come back and wrap it up in the last 10 minutes. So welcome back, everyone. And it was interesting to see we lost a bunch of people when we opened up the breakout rooms, which was very interesting. And I wonder, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Oh, hi, Rebecca. It's nice to see you here. I'd like to see your thoughts about that in chat. Like, what do we continue breakout rooms, or even though we know we're going to lose like 20% of the people in the webinar at that point? I mean, because I think people like them when they get into them, so let me know what you think and keep the chat going. Okay. Students don't love them. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Well, that's the part. It took you, Amy, 5 minutes to get started. Yeah, because you have to introduce yourself. That's why I always think is you got to introduce yourselves to each other. You don't know each other. But now all of a sudden you have somebody you know that you can share with. And so that's the good part about it. That's funny, a video by Karen Costa about how breakout rooms, I'll have to call her up and ask her what she thinks. I like Karen Costa on this. She's so inspirational. But, oh, that's interesting, Rebecca. Sometimes you've left a webinar with breakout rooms because I'm not honestly fully engaged. Yeah, when people have to know that we don't have, I mean, unlike the rigor that we've already established that you have in a college class, we don't have high expectations. We're just hoping that we can help you to be better at you. So anyway, okay, I'm going to come back. We're going to wrap it right now. I'm going to take a quick poll. And Molly or Kelly, I think you're putting the poll together. We're just going to ask a question. Which of the following would be your priority? We'd just be interested to hear what you think is the most important of these 5 principles we've had. I'll give you a few moments to answer. Does everyone see that? I can't see it. Yeah. That's interesting. So you kind of have a mix, but enable students with the power to reach their highest goals. I'm really happy to hear that because I feel like that I was trying to find a quote from one of the professors who we work with a lot. He's actually a professor leader champion at one of the schools that we support. And he had this amazing quote about how after he started engaging students and having them be more self-directed, it completely changed his whole philosophy of teaching. It was such a great quote. I'll find it next time. So anyway, so that's great. Thank you for these, for your thoughts on that. Keep going on the chat if you need to. I'm going to end this with 2 things. I'm going to talk a little bit about our commitment to humanized learning and what we can do for you and what we do for you. And then I'm just going to ask if there's any parting comments, and we're going to end the meeting. So the first thing I wanted to do, some of you here, as I know, know us well and have participated in our webinars and work with us in various different ways. And but some of you don't know us, and we recently merged with a company called ISG, which is a student success company. And so what we've done is we've created this whole company-wide commitment to, oh, I'm hearing somebody might need to mute. Our company-wide commitment to supporting institutions across the learning experience. From the moment an institution gets an idea for a program or an initiative, through course design, and through, most importantly, our passion is supporting faculty. We have this amazing program called Faculty Concierge that allows us to help faculty 24/7 as they try to evolve the course and tweak the course as they're going through the course. And then student success coaching and support. So we try to use these humanized principles in everything we do. And to that end, and some of you who know us know about our purposeful learning framework, but we've created a framework that is aligned with the leading quality rubrics like Quality Matters, Oscar, and CULT. And it's basically all about thinking about your course to make sure that you have an effective online course. And if you look at on the left, the left-hand side of our framework is all about kind of the functional and pedagogical things you need to do to be effective. But on the right-hand side are all the things that you need to do to ensure that every learner is successful in every learning context. And Brett and I have made a commitment that this spring we're going to focus a lot on the right-hand side and on humanizing, because last year we did tons of webinars with lots of pedagogical ideas for you. So that's what we're going to be thinking about. We also have this free tool called the Purposeful Learning Check, which, by the way, we're evolving and making more humanized. But it's right now it's on a Survey Pro, and it allows you to take a self-assessment and think about your course, and really prompts you to reflect and think about what 2 or things you can do to evolve your course. That's available and free to all, as are many of our resources, which we'll be giving a bunch of them out at the end of this that I've shown you. So there's one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, and that is our Spring Faculty Success Program. So we have put together, so our concierge program is a program to support faculty 24/7 to help them prep and deliver the course, increase the use of formative assessments, humanize the course, think about using video, whatever. Also, a lot of it's about how do you use the LMS effectively, and we can actually help you put things in the LMS and support you on some of the tech parts and kind of that convergence between technology and learning, because it's like, how do you use the technology effectively to make sure your students are most successful? One thing students tell us all the time is they can't find what they're supposed to do this week. That's the worst thing you want students to say, because you want them not to be wasting their time trying to figure out your schematic. You want them to actually get into the learning. So we put together this program, and it's a spring concierge, and our concierge is usually done at schools. So a school might put 50 or 100 or all their faculty into our program, and we support them 24/7 with great learning, help them deliver great learning. And this is a cohort of anyone can join. And some schools are putting 10 faculty in. It's a good way to try out concierge, but it's also good for individual faculty. It's $255 for 3 months. And it's and so try us out if you'd like, and just want to introduce you to that. If you're interested, reach out to Jordan. He's always there. He always answers quickly, too quickly. So I want to wrap it by saying that we're there for you, and we're thrilled to be doing these webinars and having so much participation, so much chat. And we hope you learned something, and come join us next month. And I'm not sure what the next one's going to be, but we'll be reaching out and letting you know. So thank you. Have a great day.